Hello and welcome back to the Mentors Dream Team podcast. It's Jay Moneyball Hellaby here, and I'm here with Nathan Banksy Banks. And we were meant to have Luke the Beaver McGowan with us today, but unfortunately he suffered technical issues. The Beaver's taken to his headset with those big chompers of his and will not be joining us, but hopefully next week he'll be here to cause some problems and stir some controversy up. And Nathan, welcome back, mate. It's great to have our first week of footy down.
Yeah, it has been great, and thank you very much for hosting this again. That was great performance on the weekend by a lot of the teams. A few of them a bit questionable, but we won't talk about that too much today.
Oh, come on, let's rile up some fans here, mate. Let's get them stirred up. The Warriors and the Tigers, they've got to be favourites for the wooden spoon after this week.
I think the Warriors are definitely the favourites. Tigers probably not far behind them at all. But if the Warriors keep playing like they did last week and get pumped 40-10 by the defending wooden spooners, there's going to be something wrong with them again.
And what do you think that was? I mean, I got to watch that Para game, and obviously I'll jump in with my opinion as I always do. But Nathan, what do you think, mate? Were the Warriors that woeful, or was Para really that good?
From a limited footage that I saw at the pub, which means I was drinking, which means my judgment is impaired. And a few people that do know me, you know my judgment was very impaired later that night. that the Warriors weren't overly good. They didn't have any spark in defence, and Sando looked really good and put himself through a hole, and so did Hayne. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, I got to watch the entire game, and unfortunately, I'm unable to drink these days. I'm dealing with off-field personal issues, and that's just no, I'm just kidding. But I wasn't drinking at the time watching the Para Warriors game, and look, I got to say, the first 20 minutes, both sides looked woeful. There were a lot of unforced errors. There was a lot of sort of nervous passing that just didn't need to happen. But Paris seemed to settle far quicker and far more, out of the two sides. And for the next 60 minutes, it was the blue and gold show. In fact, it was the Sando Hayne show. Hayne crossed for a triple, and that was off the back of a lot of Chrissy Sandow work. He played the best that I have seen him play in a very, very long time, to the point where I almost wanted to jump straight on him there and drop James Maloney out of my dream team. And Jared Hayne, just every time somebody made a break, Jared Hayne was steaming up in support, and he was there. So, the Eels, I think they've definitely got a long way to go, but they've definitely made a really, really big announcement as to what their credentials could potentially be this year. And I would really like to see a bit of a Cinderella story, and I'd like to see them live up to that potential, because I think they could make the top 8 if they keep going the way that they did.
There's definitely chance back with top 8. I still don't rate them as a defensive enough team to be a top 8 side coming into the season, with a lot of other good teams showing their credentials this week, that they could make it on attack alone like they did in 2008, but will Hayne go back to that form? If he is, you want him in your dream team.
Oh, you do, even at 400,000. I think I said last week that I stayed away from him because of his price tag, but I think I'm giving myself an uppercut at the moment over that. But you are right. Defensively, there are still some issues there. But look, with Ricky Stewart as their coach, I don't think defence is going to be too much of a problem for some time. However, a team that defence is absolutely a huge problem for, and a coach who probably didn't sleep too well last night, in fact probably woke plenty of times in a cold sweat, would have been Mick Potter and the Tigers. Every time the Knights went to the line, mate, they busted it and went over.
Yeah, I didn't see this match at all. I haven't seen any highlights. I just saw the Dream Team scores ticking up for the Dragon Knights players, and the Dream Team scores just staying at 0 or going negative, or just going 1 or 2, then going back negative again. And then she'll probably fair and just watch him and go, I'm going to do tackles, all with tackles, all with tackles. This is how you do it. Yeah. But I can't comment on that game. I didn't watch it.
Mate, look, I watched every minute of it, and in fact, it was great to watch some Monday Night Football for the first time in years. And that's just using I've got myself a little tablet, and I was watching it on the NRL Live app as I watched all the games this week. And I've got to say, it's well worth $15 a month if you don't have Foxtel. And by the way, the show doesn't have any sponsors, so we're plugging something for free here just because it's freaking cool. So definitely jump on it. But look, it was an appalling defensive performance from the Tigers. Every time the Knights got inside attacking range, the Knights scored. And there were a couple of penalties sort of at about the 60th and 65th minute that, one in particular, where Kurt Gidley, they were 40-6 up, and Gidley's pointed to the sticks. Directly in front, penalty. And I'm going, what the hell are you doing? You are 40-6 up, and you're kicking for a penalty goal. And I've got a very good mate of mine, big shout out to Ben Schneider, who probably won't even listen to this, but he's a mad Knights fan, and we were texting each other through the game, and I said, what the hell are they doing? What's going on? And he said, I got one word for you, Bennett. And if you remember, when Bennett was at the Dragons, every time there was 2 points on offer, they took it. But I mean, I couldn't fathom it. 40 points to 6. You got a 34-point lead with 20 minutes left in the game, and you're kicking for 2. Something's not quite right there. But
you obviously wanted a 36-point lead.
Yeah, well, that's it. Clearly they couldn't let Paris sit on top, for any longer than a couple of days. They must have felt something wrong about that. But, yeah. So, very good game. A couple of really good games. Look, game of the round, and I know you'll agree with me, mainly because we're blatantly biased, and for those listening for the first time, first of all, welcome. But second of all, Banksy is a mad keen Cronulla Sharks fan. I'm a Titans fan, and just as mad keen. And the Cronulla Titans game was for me game of the round. Either side, whoever lost that game was going to be unlucky to lose, and it was just a brilliant grinding game. It was good football.
It was really good football, really good attack from both teams, really good defence, especially from the Titans for most of that first half.
Yeah.
Being camped in their line and just being outstanding, especially Albert Kelly taking down the big pool going by himself with a textbook tackle.
How good was that? I loved it. In fact, there was the one with the textbook tackle where Kelly just took him down, but there was the one where Kelly's driven his shoulder into Gallen's midriff, picked him up and put him on his back and just pummeled him. And it was shades of Preston Campbell. We saw Preston Campbell do that all throughout his career on the big men, just absolutely fearless. And, geez, it was good. Jeez, it was good seeing little Kelly take down the big gal.
Oh, always was, B. Always was. But I just want a special mention to Jeff Robson. That kick right on the final, right on the 79th minute, putting it right centimetres in front from that corner post.
Yeah.
A brilliant kick.
Yeah, that was sensational. It obviously at the time it broke my heart being a Titans supporter, but you've got to give credit where credit's due and tip your hat to good footy. And look, Todd Carney's 40-20 as well. That was, he was kicking with a boot. Some of these players, how big have the kicks been in round one? You look at Jared Hayne, you look at Todd Carney. I mean, Carney was kicking 70 metres. Benji Marshall was kicking 70 metres at times. It was just phenomenal.
It was. You also got to make the wind have it there. Sorry, the wind also plays its part there, especially in that Sharks game. The wind was coming right down that field, so I was just like smashing it into the corner as a piece of piss. And you can see those long kicks Carney and Robson are both putting on. One kick I was concerned about on the weekend was Jamie Soward.
Yeah.
What was that with him?
Look, all I can put it down to is 40-degree heat. Soward's always copped a lot of stick about being a bit soft, particularly mentally. And he's worked hard to sort of shake that tag, and he did sort of for that period under Bennett. But without Bennett there, look, I see him resuming his old sort of mentality and just not being as mentally tough as he was. I think Bennett gave him that little bit of extra fire in the belly, that little bit of extra oomph maybe. And I think without Bennett, mate, he's really, really lacking it.
Yeah, he obviously is, but Soward only kicking 100 metres in a game where Nathan Finn kicked 280 odd. That's a concerning part for me. Is like, isn't Jamie Soward the guy that sits 10 metres behind and smashes it over Billy Slater's head and puts it out dead all the time?
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, Jamie Soward, from a Dreamteam perspective, if he's kicking 100 metres a game, instead of his usual 250 plus or 300 plus,
300.
Is he a viable half to have in your dream team, particularly at his price tag?
He's not at the moment, but I was considering him at the start of the season, especially with Fiend there in the halves with him. I was like, Fiend won't do crap. He's never done crap in years. But it's just like Jamie Soward just obviously didn't do much, and he was not involved enough, which probably was one of the Dragons' down points on the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Broncos Dragons game this week is really going to be a litmus test for, where the Dragons are at, where the Broncos are at. The Broncos only played, in my opinion, 55 minutes of football, and they faded. They didn't have the fitness to stick it with Manly for the full 80 minutes, and I think that's where the game got lost. They were right in at their 55 minutes and then just faded very, very quickly. And the Dragons with what they're doing, they seem to have a lack of imagination in the halves, and a lack of imagination in attack, and it's going to be an interesting test, Broncos versus Dragons, as to who comes out on top. It could be that the Broncos get out to a 30-point lead in that first 55 minutes, and the Dragons can't chase them down. It could be it was just first game sort of wobblies for the Broncos, and they'll be fit and play 80 minutes this week, but. It's certainly going to be interesting. I think that one's going to be a game that will really determine which of those two sides, make the 8, as much as it can be determined this early in the season, I might add. It'll definitely be a litmus test.
It will be. It will make sure who wins will be in a better position to make the 8. If you lose those two games, you're going to be struggling to come back on the third week and try and make the 8 from there.
Well, look, you are, and I mean the stats back that up. But I mean, I'm thinking more mentally and where they're at their stage of preparation and training and skill levels and fitness levels and that. From what I saw from the Broncos, you don't make the 8 playing 55 minutes of football. The sides that scrape into the 8 at 7 and 8 over the last couple of years, like the Canberra Raiders and that, they've got their playing, they haven't played the full 80 minutes, but they've at least pumped out 65, 70, and at least a good sort of 20 minutes of that have been in a mad flurry where they've piled on all their points. The Broncos didn't even look to have that in them, and that's a real concern for the Broncos.
It is. Well, you also got to give credit to the Seagulls too. They've defended really well and shut down a lot of Broncos players very early on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look
at
that
game.
As much as I hate giving credit to Manly ever, they were a solid side and they were defensively good and Jeff Tuvey's he's definitely got them in good shape. They're in really good condition. They're definitely very fit and they're playing very well. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I think we should really move on to our plan. We've sort of discussed for the first 10 minutes here all the different games and that. We haven't got onto any of the stuff that we plan to talk about today, so we might move on to our actual show list for today. And first up, gorgeous George Burgess. I mean, how good was he?
It was great. He was busy. He looked busy. He wanted to be out there. When he was out there, he was doing 2 head-ups a set. He was doing 2-3 tackles a set. And in his 30 minutes out there, he pumped out one of the best Dream Team scores from a front row bench forward I've ever seen. Yeah.
And not only that, he did it he was on the field for 33 minutes, and what did he pump out, 62 or something? 65. So there you go. He's scoring at nearly 2 points a minute. Now, he's not going to do that every week, obviously. But watching that Rabbitohs game, this kid is a monster. I mean, he is huge and he is fast. I mean, as soon as Dave Taylor went to the Titans, South looked at George Burgess and went, Dave who? We just didn't see it coming. This kid is he's an absolute freaking monster. And his points came from runs. I think you were saying to me earlier, what did he make, 140 metres in runs? He made 6 tackle breaks or something.
Yep, he did.
Scored,
it was good. He didn't lose any points at all. He had a perfect game, so to speak. A try, a line break assist, 16 tackles. One of those tackles was one-on-one. 18 points by tackle breaks, that's 6 of them. 1 offload, and 140 metres made. And if you thought Sam Burgess was big, George is bigger. And you also got to realise that Souths were playing him in New South Wales Cup when he was 19, 20 years old, when he could have been playing under 20s. So they've always had big hopes from him. They made him play against the big boys, the older boys, to get the experience. So it's great to see him come up now and be ready to go.
So the big question is, with Sam Burgess out, do you bring George Burgess in for Sam? Or, I mean, have you got to have George Burgess in your side? Is he going to continue with these scores, do you reckon?
I'm a little bit iffy on him with the scoring, but I think he is a must-have if you haven't got him already because of his money he's going to make. You see his break-even for this week's like minus 106, sorry, not 100, minus 76 or something.
Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. He's going to make like 60k, which he thinks you can make each week for 2 weeks. there's another gun you can have.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, you're dead right with that. That's a lot of money, and particularly when that first upgrade, time comes around at round 3 and you get your first lot of cash in. There's some definite money there. So, all right, we're going to move on to SBW shortly, but what I want to pose to you is I'm going to pose a question based on my dream team, and I want to get your breakdown on it, Nate. I've got Aidan Tolman and Trent Merrin in my front row. I've got Brenton Lawrence on the bench, who I just want to mention he pumped out a 45 in 38 minutes or something, so again above a point per minute. Look, mate, everyone can see the teams now. I'm Angry Anchovies, so people can look us up and check it out. There's no hiding anymore. They can just judge us and make decisions based on that. But obviously had Jack Buchanan as well as an NPR, and sort of uppercutting myself for having him as the NPR, but didn't know anything about him going in really. Now, Trent Merrin scored 46 in 40-degree heat. Now, I know he's going to be a gun later in the year, but with Gorgeous George the way he's going, and Sonny Bill Williams the way he's going, and what I'm looking at is, should I trade out Trent Merrin for Gorgeous George, then upgrade somebody like Tim Brown for who's an NPR on my bench for Sonny Bill Williams, give myself some extra depth in that second row position, make some money off Gorgeous George and Brenton Lawrence and Jack Buchanan, and then bring Trent Merrin in, in a few rounds' time?
Yeah, that is definitely the option that I would be considering too. You're looking at your team right now. You are lacking a little bit of depth in that second row. You only have Gavin Cooper, Josh Papali there at the moment that are worth big money. You've got Nathan Smith, Toa Harris, Tim Brown and Bodine Thompson sitting down at the moment. You need another gun, either in Sonny Bill Williams or I think Jamie Brewer, is another one you could definitely look at.
Yeah.
So go back to your front row forwards. Tolman's pumped out of 49 at his price, and I see him as continuing that for another 18 weeks at least, and making himself like a 380-odd-K player, I reckon. Trent Merrin pumped out of 50-odd again, like 46. He's going to keep doing that and probably hold his price, maybe drop down, drop up a little bit. Brenton Lawrence doing the same thing again, 45. He's definitely going to make money for you there. Jack Buchanan, again, doing the same sort of score. Definitely going to make heaps of money. And also with George Burgess there, you definitely need him, so I'm thinking to trade him into my team as well. Looking at Merrin now, I think Merrin is the smart one to trade out.
Yeah. For
Gorgeous Burge, and then upgrading your Tim Brown or your Bodine Thompson. Probably
and
Tim Brown.
Just bring that extra depth and then bring Merrin in later and, take advantage of the extra trades that we've got this year.
Definitely. I think that Brendan Lawrence could turn to Merrin very nicely in about 4 or 5 weeks' time.
I think so too. I mean, obviously, I'm worried about Jason King coming back and how that'll affect. But Brenton Lawrence, look, he was my secret NPR front row forward at the beginning of the year. Obviously, we were one round in. Everyone can see everybody's teams now, so there's not really any secrets. But Brenton Lawrence scores at 1.14 points per minute all throughout 2012. He's done it again for round 1, and I expect him to continue. He's one of the most consistent players at his work rate. He loves getting in there and getting his work. So I expect him to get up over that 300 grand mark, within a very short period of time. But not only that, I kind of do get attached to a couple of my players, throughout the season, and he's one that I will. Particularly being that he gives me options during Origin time. Having said that, he is on the radar for Origin. There's a lot of people who are talking about Brenton Lawrence as being an Origin quality player, and I'm starting to understand why.
He's New South Wales, isn't he?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so any New South Wales player is definitely on the radar for New South Wales.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, just throwing it out there, you could also swap Josh Papali for Sonny Bill Williams, but then that doesn't give you any depth, and it doesn't give you that George Burgess coming, so you don't get that money.
Yeah, and that's, I was considering that. But I really like Papali as a point of difference. It's, he didn't score particularly well this week, and I was really disappointed looking at him on field and how he was playing. He looked lazy, he looked disinterested. I'm willing to chalk that up, at least for this round, to, I guess what you call it, all the contract drama that's surrounded him. But I will be watching him against the Titans. I'll actually be at the Titans game, and I'll be watching him again, and if he shows the same again, well, that's all right. There's plenty of other second-row forwards out there that I can drop him out for and pick up another point of difference.
That's definitely another point too. You can always sit on him for another week, and if he goes crap, you can bring in George Burgess next week or somebody else. I'm not too sure who that's at that price and scored well.
Well, look, interestingly, Matt Ryan, we were all worried about him coming off the bench. He's still pumped out a 45 off the bench.
He started.
Oh, he started in the end, did he? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But, he pumped out in that 45, 46, and that's what we were all expecting from him.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he also named to start again this week.
He's named to start. He was named to start. No, that's right. He was named on the bench and then
He started on game time.
But mate, he played well, and he certainly did a lot to fill that defensive gap left by Hindmarsh. So good things coming from him. And Sonny Bill Williams. Let's move on to him. Look, I got to say, I was stunned that he pumped out a 47. I watched the game. I watched for Sonny Bill Williams. Unfortunately, I had to put up with the same thoughts of Sonny Bill that everybody else did, and I'm sure there were plenty of buckets around the country that were being filled with vomit. I mean, that was just, absolute, look, for lack of a better word, television wankery. But, he didn't look busy on the field in his 55 minutes, but he just racked up the points. He was there, got involved at various times and made a couple of busts and scored a try and that sort of thing. But, I was looking for him constantly, and it did not seem like he did much at all.
No, in my opinion, he wasn't too busy, but when he was tackling, especially in his defence, he made a tackle. He put him on the ground beautifully like you do in rugby. Just put him on the ground and turn him over. But he got up and it was so slow getting back. He got pinged a couple of times being offside, which was annoying.
Yeah.
But also, his runs didn't look as threatening as I thought they could have been. But that's probably him just warming himself back into the league, warming himself back into this heavy contact that he's probably not used to in rugby. So you give him a few more, you give him next week against the Warriors, so they play like they did last week against the Eels, he'll be scoring 70, 80 points, just off tackle bust alone probably.
Mate, I've brought him, I'm after our discussions before, I'm seriously thinking about bringing him in this week because I think he's going to tear the Warriors a new one. If Sandow and Hayne can tear the Warriors a new one, Sonny Bill Williams is going to make them look like a Toyota Cup side. In fact, the Warriors would probably be better off fielding their Toyota Cup side because their Toyota Cup side's in far better shape than their NRL side at the moment.
They got dumped too by the Eels Toyota Cup last week, remember?
Oh, really? There you go. Mate, it's all over in New Zealand, mate. The ditch is, it's getting nasty. But, look, I think he's a must-have, and you watch the interviews and all the media and everything, and you start to listen to the man himself. And look, I don't approve. I don't like what he did when he walked out. I don't know the full story of it, but I don't think many of us do. But when I listen to him talk, he talks about a bloke like a bloke who has an exceptionally high standard for himself, and he doesn't accept anything below that standard from himself. And I think you're right that he's just warming into it. We're going to see some big things from him. Look, it's one, I've got to put my hand up. I'll eat crow. I was a doubter at the beginning of the season. I know it's only one round in, but, he's definitely impressed thus far on the footy field, and I hope to see more. He's starting this week, starting in the 12, I believe, so hopefully that sort of signifies some more minutes for him.
I think it will signify 80 minutes for him, especially with Morty Corner's name though, so maybe that injury rumour was false.
Ah, good to know.
Don't know yet. But there's Orbison who played 80 minutes on the bench too last week, so, and O'Donnell's back as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Looking at that bench, there's only one prop on it, and that's Kennedy. So you might see Guerrero move forward or Frank Paul move forward to the prop like they might do, I'm not too sure. Don't really pay too much. I always get Jared Warrior Hargraves and Frank Paul Newsala mixed up. Yeah. I never can tell them apart. They're both as dirty as each other.
They look incredibly different, right? Like Jared's blonde, just for starters.
I don't watch. I know one's got 8 on the back and one's got 13, but I still don't really give a damn.
Oh, fair enough. It's a Roosters team. Who cares? All right. We've just upset all of the eastern suburbs supporters now, so having done that, let's move on. Um, Sharkies, drug problems at the Sharkies. There's obviously a lot of this, and as any sort of rugby league podcast would be remiss if we didn't touch on it. If you're over it, guys, I'm really sorry, but look, I really feel sorry for the players here. I would really like to see the players and the clubs turn around and smash Asada. I honestly believe that it's more politically motivated and press headline grabbing motivated than it is substance. This drug that they're all going on about, this human growth hormones and peptides and all that, they weren't illegal during the 2011 season. The information I have is that they were made illegal in November of 2011. So chasing down these players for taking a substance that was banned after the end of the season, look, it smells, it sounds, and it looks like a witch hunt to me. And the old saying, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, and it looks like a duck, well, it's probably a duck.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I just don't like that the Sharks have been singled out on this, especially to start with. There's 5 other teams allegedly involved in this, doing the same thing, but the Sharks have been picked on because they've had board problems and all that sort of stuff, CEO problems, and they've just attacked us like knowing, and it's just it's looked to derail us. But just looking on the weekend, they performed out of their skin. They performed better than last year, I reckon. Their attack a little bit sideways at times, but still was quite good. And it was good to see them using our new buys and Jonathan Wright, Bo Ryan, and Michael Gordon effectively. So I kind of hope this stuff gets sorted out. If the players knew they were cheating and accepted they were cheating, they should be gone. I don't care who you are. But by the sounds of it, the players had no idea. The management obviously was trying to pull the wool over their eyes and said, this is still fine, this is still fine, and just keep feeding them like that. And that's just poor management by the Sharks, and it's just a massive abuse of trust. And I'm not happy at it one little bit, but I'm a Shark supporter. I'm going to always be a Shark supporter. I'm going to stand by them, and always will.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. You support the team, you don't support the board. And we got to remember that these things are they might be our team, they might be our favourite league team, but they are also a business. But what is interesting is the story that's come out from Dave Givney and he's the doc. He was the doc for 28 years and got told his services are no longer required. He the stories that's coming out through social media and that sort of thing is that he just disapproved of what Stephen Dank was doing. He was the first one to blow the whistle on Stephen Dank back in 2011, and he effectively tendered his resignation and said, look, get rid of Dank or I'm gone. And they wouldn't take his resignation, and they stood Dank down and fired him as a result of that. So, for him to be let go and it all coming under the whole it's nothing to do with the drugs, we're just letting them go. Like, I mean, come on, really? You've got to think about your timing and all that sort of stuff. And, they've really failed to do that. They haven't had a CEO for 3 years, apparently. So that's obviously allowed, I guess, chaos to reign supreme in a lot of ways down at the Shire. Mm. Personally, I'm really hoping that, somebody, I'm not sure if they were joking or whatever, they turned around and said that, Gillard was, Julia Gillard had the lowest rating of preferred PM in a long time, and then suddenly, Asada come out with all this, and Gillard disappears from the headlines. Now, well, it's come out today that Gillard's actually ahead in the polls, ahead of Tony Abbott. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that means now Asada's going to drop off the headlines, and the Labor Party are happy to have Gillard in the headlines again. I mean, look, just putting that out there, I don't buy into any of the political rubbish that goes on, but I did find it a bit of an amusing anecdote and conspiracy theory, as an explanation for what could be going on.
Yeah, it's always a chance. As I always thought, Asada was that political government agency. And it's like, oh crap, she's doing this to make herself look good to get re-elected, the dumb bitch.
Mate, I think most of Australia certainly resonate with that sentiment. But we'll get off politics. Politics and sport probably shouldn't mix together. The one thing I will say about Asada, and this is where our players could be in trouble across the board, regardless of which club they're from, Asada have a policy that the player is individually responsible for knowing what they're putting in their body. And, you know, we've talked and heard from a number of players about what goes on. You know, they go to a club and they get handed a list and say, you take this, and they take it in good trust, they take it in good faith. This is what they've been told to take as part of their job and, you know, part of their work. And if there's an illegal substance on that list, Asada are going to nail the players individually. Because Asada's attitude is the player is individually responsible for what they put into their body. And that could be a bit of a downfall for some of our players. I honestly really hope that it's not. And I hope that this is just a massive witch hunt, that it all blows over and come September, you know, it's just a really distant bad memory. But anyway, we'll move along. Team lists. We've got a few team lists, and they've all come out. Most of them looking very much the same, aren't they? Are there any sort of movements you see that are worth mentioning here?
I think, pardon me, I can't remember who played for you last week, but they've got that new Kiplai Tonginui, or Tonganoa. I'm not too sure how to pronounce that name, but he's on the...
Tanginoa. Mate, I don't know. I reckon you'd get closer to me. It's...
I'm surprised he got kicked off.
Two white blokes trying to pronounce Samoan, Maori, Tongan names and that sort of thing. I mean, we're going to struggle. There's no two ways about it. So, no disrespect to our Islander brothers, but we're doing the best we can to pronounce the names.
He got kicked from the team, though.
That's a good question. Actually, one interesting inclusion, we got Joseph Parlow has been named to play at 5'8" for the Eels in place of Luke Kelly. Luke Kelly obviously had a bit of an injury coming off, so just obviously keep an eye on the casualty ward to see what's happening there. But Luke Kelly could be out for a few weeks.
That's who was on the bench, Polo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's why I couldn't find another forward.
Yep.
Not too much happening in the Bulldogs team. It's the same as last week.
No, but do want to say David Clemmer. Huge reps on him pre-round one. A lot of talk about him and all the rest of it. And, mate, he lived up to it. Obviously not as much as gorgeous George Burgess, but, God, the guy's a unit, and he really took on the line, and he looked busy for the time that he was out there. He wasn't out there long, but he definitely looked busy and got through his work well.
Yeah, it's good. Dragons, same team again that was named last week, not what took the field. Merrin's starting and Harrison's on the bench. That could change just like last week.
Yeah.
So.
And again, same side for the Broncos. No real changes there at all.
Cowboys, same again. No Robert Lewis on the bench. Clint Greenshields on the 18th man. I don't see him playing.
Yep. No, nor do I really there. Storm, yeah, pretty much same as last week. Tohu Harris, just quick mention, he only scored 15 Dream Team points, and I know I had huge raps on him in round one. Look, I still stand by that. Still with the huge raps on him. I just want to point out, first game nerves. He lost 15 Dream Team points for penalties and errors and that sort of thing. I look to him to improve. He would have scored 30 points without those errors. So I think we'll see him improve. Craig Bellamy wouldn't be naming him again in the starting side if he didn't believe in the kid. So, I don't think it's time to jump off the Tohu Harris bandwagon just yet.
There's not really much you can jump off him too, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. At least he's playing and scoring.
Yeah.
Warriors.
Tupu on the wing for Vadavai.
Yep.
And Steve Rapira starting for Mateo. So
interesting, Mateo coming off the bench.
They probably want the impact of Mateo coming off the bench like they tried to do last season, trying to negate Sonny Bill.
Look, I think that's a really fair point. I had someone comment to me today that they really wanted to get Mateo in, and I sort of looked at them and said, why the hell do you want to do that? He bombed hard last week. But, I guess after a low-scoring game for Mateo, you kind of expect that there's an 80-point game just around the corner somewhere. So, it'll be interesting to watch. But, yeah, your point, I think it was last week, that he's just too up and down. I tend to agree with.
Too much rocks, not enough diamonds.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Luke, moving on to the Roosters, obviously the big move everyone's going to be happy about, Sonny Bill Williams into the starting side at 12. Looks good to pick up 80 minutes or at least a decent, 60, 70 minute dig minimum. No other real major changes that you see there, mate?
Nah, there's no changes there.
Yeah. Luke O'Donnell comes into the 17. Boyd Cordner in at 19. Dylan Napper named at 22. By the way, you were mentioning earlier Boyd Cordner, the injury rumours are all rubbish.
They might be. He's been named.
Yep.
So, we can see what happens here.
Yep.
The Titans looking exactly the same again, like last week.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't have changed that side at all last week. I think, as I said, both the Sharks and the Titans were... whoever lost that game was unlucky to walk away without 2 points. They both played brilliant football, played a really good, solid game, and full credit to both sides. So I'm not surprised Titans are 1-17 exactly as they were. Luke O'Dwyer, 18th man, but expect him to drop off the bench. Raiders, now Josh Dugan, personal off-field issues.
And Blake Ferguson.
Personal off-field issues as well.
Yep.
Not surprised about Blake Ferguson. I've seen a lot of stuff on Instagram and all the rest of it, and he does love to party hard. Josh Dugan I'm a bit surprised about, but apparently he was drinking while injured, which is of course in contravention of team policy, and for good reason too. Alcohol definitely delays your recovery in a very, very big way. Yeah. So that brings Reece Robinson into the 1, and Edric Lee.
3 on the 3. Edric 3. If you remember from last year, he scored 3 points in one of the bye rounds. And everybody's called him Edric 3 ever since.
Fair enough. I've missed that. You were saying Edric 3, and I'm going, no, Jared Croker's at 3. What the hell are you talking about? But, no. Edric Lee to come into 5, Jack Whiten moving into 4. And to be honest with you, look, I don't think Blake Ferguson's a particularly big loss for the Raiders. I think they'll play better without him, to be perfectly honest.
Well, hopefully Shandor Earl can bloody dye that stupid blonde hair of his black.
I reckon he should just shave it off and get it tattooed. But anyway, what's another tattoo
like his
for you,
leg tattoos. Stars on his legs looks horrible.
Oh, mate, yeah. Talk about decisions you make while drunk and young. Tigers. Now, the interesting thing for the Tigers here, they've basically named the same side. That they got pumped by the Knights.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, but they only played last night. You can't make too many wholesale changes just yet. Watch for late mail, probably for a lot of... if there's going to be a lot of changes, we will know it by Friday, hopefully. Yeah.
And look, just want to give a massive shout out to Jack Buchanan. Played very, very well. And Jack's... it all went downhill for the Tigers when Jack went off the field, from watching that game. Look, Braith and Astor was just a waste of space on the field. In fact, the Tigers probably would have been better off without Braith in the side this week. The errors, penalties he gave away, things like that. Aaron Woods coming off the bench. I honestly think they should start with Jack Buchanan and Aaron Woods with Keith Galloway coming off the bench. Those two I think would give them some real big impact early on. Interesting thing to note: Tigers scored the first try on Monday night, and they scored the last try on Monday night. Everything else was the Knights' show, and the Knights finished up with about 68% possession over 80 minutes, which is just phenomenal.
It just shows how shit the Tigers were too.
Well, I mean, they scored 3 back-to-back tries in 3 consecutive sets. Tigers did kick off and it'd be a 100-metre set. The Knights did play well, but geez, the Tigers were woeful. Panthers, looking at that side, Brad Tye. Wes Nguama is named in the 3, which is good, so hopefully that was just a cork that had him leaving the side. And everybody's favourite cash cows, Lewis Brown and Nathan Smith, named at 12 and 13. Nathan Smith had a huge game with a lovely 47 points. Yeah. And Lewis Brown, satisfactory 32. Was it 32 or 29? I can't remember after updates.
29, Brown.
29. But definitely, money to be made off those two. So and good points too. Very good 32. Points. 32. It was 32 in the end. Excellent.
Yeah.
Seagulls, same side named again. Tom Simmons named as 18th man. Jesse Sini Lafayette Now, definitely one to watch. Look, there's some words sneaking out of Manly saying that this kid is big, he's fast, he's a unit, and got to see a little bit of him and was pretty impressed. You know, he got through some very good work in a very short time.
He played 90 seconds, didn't he?
I think he played more than that, didn't he?
I'm not too sure. I wasn't watching the game by then.
It wasn't much. I think it was like 10, 15 minutes or something. But
I don't think it was that much either.
Really? Well,
yeah.
But, you know, put it this way, when he was on the field, he was involved in everything, which I suppose if you're only playing a couple of minutes, you've got plenty of energy to throw yourself in.
You have to do that.
Yeah. Knights, no surprises there. Look, 1-17, exactly as the side that put the Tigers to the sword. David Fayalogo named as 18th man.
Interesting to see if Mullen will take the field, though.
Yeah, look, it will be. But I think it was just precautionary. You know, Bennett sort of seemed to think it was just a precaution, and, you know, he said, look, it's going to be a long season. So, you know, I guess when you're sort of 30, 40 points up, you can pull your star playmakers off and not stress too much. Moving on to Rabbitohs. Obviously, Sam Burgess out on suspension for that high shot. You've got Gorgeous George named to 17, Jason Clark's 18th man, Justin Hunt 19th man, and Roy Asatasi, Jeff Lima as your prop starting, Chris McQueen, Ben Teo, Ben Lowe as your starting second row.
You got Bryson Goodwin coming in for Bow Champion as well, who's out injured for next month.
Yeah, dislocated shoulder, I believe it was, potentially requiring surgery. So wish all the best to Bo, former Titan, and really do hope that he recovers well. Sharks named a 20-man side this week. You've got Chad Townsend named at 20, Sam Tagatese. No, not Sam Tagatese at 19.
I'm seeing a 17-man team here I am.
Oh, mate, on NRL.com I'm looking at a 20-man team. You've got Jason McHugh as 18th man.
I'm looking at a 17-man team. Just refresh the page then.
All right, we'll refresh the page. Got to love these amateur podcasts.
It was still the 17 that took the field last week, named them a 17.
Oh, and why wouldn't you? No, I've got 20-man side, mate, still after refresh. So, Ben Ross, Andrew Fafita starting props, Lewis, Graham Gallen as your second row, Carney with that beautiful boot of his, God, that was a good 40-20. Michael Gordon, you know, started well with I think it was a solid 32 or 35 or something like that. You know, and he looked busy. He was definitely getting into his work, so I expect him to go gangbusters as the season moves on and he gets his confidence back from those broken legs.
Definitely, I see that too.
Excellent. Well, that's Teamless, and we've gotten through our work today a hell of a lot quicker. So if you've managed to get to the end of this podcast, you think you're at the end, but of course you're not. We want to talk about a couple of the failures, but we'll only spend a couple of minutes doing that. And Jacob Miller, Tohu Harris, and Horror Story, as he is now being named, Horror Story. 73 minutes of football for 18 Dream Team points after update. 18 Dream Team points for 73 minutes of football.
And I started him over Nathan Smith.
Goodness. I mean, fullbacks don't even play 73 minutes for 18 points. Well, I suppose they do, but they're only the lazy ones. I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, it's Justin Horro. Is it Justin or Jason? Anyway. Justin Horro. 73 minutes of football for 18 Dream Team points. I mean, that has to be, by far, the worst performance and the slowest scoring performance of any forward that I have ever seen.
I can't disagree with you there either. Oh, no, sorry, Tarek Sims. He was very slow.
Yeah, but he didn't play 73 minutes of football.
True, but his points per minute was lower.
And he has the excuse of coming back from 2 seasons of broken legs.
True.
But he
I can't make excuses.
After updates, did he still remain on -3, Tarek Sims?
I don't know. I didn't bother looking at him.
Yeah, it was pretty ugly. Sims was certainly pretty ugly. Horro, I mean, I suppose at least he was in positives. You know, he lost 10 points, for missed tackles and ineffective tackles, which would only put him on 28 if he had a perfect game. 73 minutes for 28 points even. I mean, that's just an absolute disgrace. So if you're on the horror train, let me just say right now, get off it. Grab yourself some Ryan James loving from the Titans. He only played about 35 minutes from memory, and he scored 36 points. So get on the Ryan James bandwagon and save yourself some nightmares, because if that's horror, you know, I know it's round one, but
he was like that at the Eels too, remember? He
was like that at the Eels. Like, yeah, I'm stunned has he even been picked in the Manly side? I know we've just done teamless, but if I was Jeff Tuvey, like, and I looked at that, yeah, he has his name to start. I'd be, as Jeff Tuvey, I'd be going, mate, pick it up, or I'm not just dropping you from my dream team. That's atrocious.
But who else would start? He might still get dropped with Tom Simons coming in and Joe Gulliver also there.
Look, we can only hope. Jacob Miller. Look, looking at Jacob Miller, you know, I've always said I never expected a half outside Benji to score any more than sort of between 20 and 30 points. You know, 30 being a really good day maximum, maybe with a try included in it. So I was sort of expecting 20 to 25 from Jacob Miller. 7 was the result, and look, he looked lost. He looked out of place on that field. Mind you, he wasn't the only Tiger that looked lost and out of place in that absolute slaying by the Knights. But I really hope he improves. I hope he has a big game this week, because it's, you know, Josh Drinkwater can't be too far away for the Dragons.
Yeah, that's the only reason why Miller's probably staying in my team, for just to know that I can pop him down to Drinkwater if I have to.
Yeah. And you know, as much as you don't want to burn a trade for anything less than about 50 grand increase, like as in cash in pocket, Jacob Miller after round one, for that $26,000 that you'll get to drop him to Drinkwater, geez, it's looking tempting, even though Drinkwater's not playing. So hopefully Jacob picks up. Tohu Harris we have discussed, and you know, Tohu, stay on him. Those of you, if you're disappointed by Idris, I just want to say, if you didn't see the game, you know, they went Idris's side nowhere near enough, and every time they did, Dave Taylor and Jamal Idris looked very, very dangerous. I know I'm biased with the Titans, but
they did, though.
They did.
Especially Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor bent the line, Idris bent the line. You know, Idris, he might not have made any tackle breaks, but that's just full credit to the Sharks' defence. They were very, very strong in their defence, but Idris would still drag 3 players with him for sort of 5 to 10 metres before they finally got him to ground. So that kind of gives you an idea of what he's capable of, and coming up against weaker sides, and I'd definitely rate the Raiders as a weaker side than the Sharks at the moment. You know, Idris is going to be scoring a lot more than 25. Yeah, so I reckon that's just about the show today. Nathan, what do you reckon, mate?
I reckon it is. Nothing else popping up.
No. Well, thanks, ladies and gents, for joining us once again. We hope that your Dream Team week was really, really good. To give you an idea, look, I'm wrapped with my team. Scored a 753, finished ranked 2,075 for the week, so hoping to improve on there, but definitely a better start than last year with all those injuries. Banksy, how'd you finish up, mate?
I got 743, finished 2,960th, which is not too bad. I'm enjoying my team.
Yeah. A lot of traffic jammed up in sort of very close space there too, so plenty of room to move